Welcome. My name's Peter Abraham. I'm a registered nurse with extensive experience in hospice and palliative care. And today we're going to be talking about a common question that's asked not only by family members, primary caregivers, and loved ones of somebody who was on hospice and died, but also of hospice nurses like myself. Did I just kill my patient, my loved one, my friend who's on hospice? Now, before I answer those questions and go over today's topic, I would like, as in previous episodes, to give a praise report. So, any of you who have been following my adventures on this channel know that I was let go from a hospice position in Pennsylvania mid-June of last year. Ageism, I'm unvaccinated from COVID, or because I advocated too strongly for one of my patients, these are unedited videos, who wanted palliative sedation. I don't know, and I may never find out. And on this channel, we've been going over part of the journey from that termination in terms of being resilient in the face of life storms, along with educational moments for family members and friends and caregivers of loved ones on hospice, and that's the focus for today's episode. There have been episodes going over various books I've published for both hospice nurses. Right now, my hospice eligibility book is literally the bestseller in hospice and palliative care on Amazon. Thank you, God, and thank you, Dr. Andy, for mentioning it on LinkedIn. And also, the dementia books are picking up, and that's great. And many of you know that we moved from Pennsylvania to Kentucky. I had my Pennsylvania license endorsed in Kentucky in December, and I've been trying to find part-time work in Kentucky, as well as remote work. Well, last episode I went over preparing for a telephone screening for a part-time remote registered nurse consultant. Today I had a second interview. It was called a second level screening by the director of the firm. And if it will proceed, it's in God's hands. There's over 100 applicants. If it will proceed, the third interview will be with the clinical side. So I was screened by HR. I was then screened by the director, whose main background is in finances and operations. And next screening, God willing, will be on the clinical side. Part of what helped for these screenings is, number one, as I had in the last episode, I used Google Notes LM. It is artificial intelligence, but unlike ChatGPT and some of the others out there, we, the end user, train the AI by curating, meaning that we gather what information we want the AI to operate within. We create the sandbox ourselves. So Google Notes LM makes that very easy by, I want to upload this PDF file, I want to link this website or this YouTube video. And even for today's screening, it was a video conference call. I had uploaded approximately a dozen YouTube videos about the company that they presented, as well as third party. I did some investigation on telehealth for how they bill Medicare, put links to the Medicare sites there, the job description, my resume, and all this information, and in a matter of minutes, just because all it is point and click. And then I was able to say, okay, using the SEAT acronym, SEAT, SEAT, S is for skills, A is for education or experience, A is for accomplishments, and T is what type of person you are. How does this all relate to the job description based on my resume? Now, I could craft this myself, but there's a lot of information to weed through. So here I had it do that for me. And it basically came up with, here's a script. Here's a script to use. And I'm not a script person. This is live. So I just read it and got the gist of it and then put it in my own words. But using that Google Notes LM, I was also able to do an SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What are my strong points as it relates to the position? What are my weaknesses? I've not done telehealth before. What are the opportunities, including learning and growth? And what are the threats that are both good and bad? I don't want to spend too much time on that because this talk is going to be about, did I kill my loved one on hospice? But part of what helped too is I write books, and I write books on how to use motivational interviewing, which is going to be part of this job, is using motivational interviewing to help have the patient or family member or loved one buy into goals that they come up with, they agree to. And how do we do smart goals and realistic goals? And as they're going on this journey, and I'm having telephone calls with them as part of this position if I'm hired, how do I resist what's called the writing reflex, that they did what? And I game face. And I encourage them in using motivational interviewing, get them to have realistic goals, measurable, attainable, that they can work through. So that telephone screening, from my perspective, went well. But this is now in God's hands, and time will tell whether I get that third interview and whether I'm offered this job or not. At the end of no matter what time of day, God is good. So now to the topic that probably brought you here. Either you've been through this and you're wondering about this question yourself, or you currently have a loved one on hospice now, and on the inside you are dying. I'm not talking necessarily literally, but like you are, am I killing my loved one? The hospice nurse said to give this morphine and this lorazepam and haloperidol on. They gave me this schedule, and I'm giving it to them, and they're going downhill fast. Is it the medications? Am I killing them? And I've asked those same questions as a nurse because I go to visit. So I want to get to that in just a moment, because this is, if you clicked on the video, this is what we're going to talk about momentarily. And please bear with me. Please bear with me. I do cover these medications in the book, and I apologize if I'm not great with knowing the camera. For, like I said, these are live. When I'm with a patient, it's live. It's not reality TV. Hospice Medication Handbook, A Caregiver Guide to Comfort Meds. This is available on Amazon. All my books to caregivers, both the Kindle and paperback versions, I try to price very reasonable. You have enough going on. And part of the reason for this video is this is today, January 22nd, 2025. Today, on one of the Facebook groups I participate in that's extremely active. It's a very, very supportive group for patients. There's hospice patients in this group, terminally ill. Some of them may last 6 to 9 months. Others, they have family members posting for them. There's hospice workers. There's grief counselors. Hi, Julie. There's other hospice nurses. And today, a family member posted anonymously, and it's okay to post anonymously. This is sensitive stuff. My mom can't get out of bed anymore. I just touch her eyebrows and she screams. I'm giving 0.5 ml of the morphine every 3 hours. We're giving the Haldol and the lorazepam alternating. And I feel like I'm killing my mother. That was a very real, and that's my paraphrasing, but if you go to the forum, I'm trying to be close and accurate because these are real topics that have real meaning to people who are torn up on the inside as they're trying to provide comfort to their loved one who is dying. So I want to talk about a theory that's honed into the reality of all these feelings and these questions. Am I killing my loved one? Did I just kill my loved one if they passed? Now some clinicians will refer to this as the double dose effect, and there's other names for it. But here's the bottom line. I'm going to give you the bottom line, and then I'm going to back away. So we're going to zoom in. So we're going to zoom in, and then I'm going to back away. So the zoom in. They are dying. If they were not receiving the medications, they would be suffering far more than even now. Dying of itself is not painful. I've had patients that did not require anything. And Deb, if you ever see this video, you know who we're talking about. They didn't need anything. But depending on the disease process, sometimes they need a lot of hard medications. So you're providing them comfort. And towards the end, from a literal as well as figuratively, as well as spiritually, they're stuck between heaven and earth. They're stuck between the physical realm and the spiritual realm. And it's like going to bed with a very severe backache or your foot's hurting or a toothache. You just can't fall asleep. You can't relax. You can't let go. So part of the medications is to get you comfortable enough to just be calm enough that you slip away in your sleep. Now, in the last hour of anyone's life, if they have anyone caring for them, that person is going to receive something out of love from the person who gave it to them. It could be a sponge dipped in water to moisten their lips. Or maybe they're able to drink and it's a small sip of water. Or it's a medication. Or maybe they're being changed because they cannot change themselves. And you roll them over. Something out of love. And I cannot stress it enough, out of love is being done to and for them out of love for their benefit. And shortly after receiving that love gift, they're going to pass away. In the last hour of somebody's life, if there's somebody with them, something was done for and to them out of love, and they're going to pass away. It was the disease process that took their life. It was that sucky cancer or that horrible dementia or that COPD, whatever it was that brought them on the hospice. That's what killed them. That sponge of liquid that you moisten their lips with, or maybe you put on lip balm. Maybe you adjusted their oxygen. Maybe you rolled them over to change them. And yes, maybe you gave them a dose of morphine or lorazepam or Haldol or some other med. That's not what killed them. And that was the zoom-in view. Now let me back off a little bit. And let me share some real-life stories that I went through. It's only going to be a handful. I want to be mindful of your time. And I want to encourage you, if you have questions about this, comment below. I am not going to judge you. Comment below and ask your question. I don't know everything, but I'll do my best to help. I'll do my best to answer your question. And if you wanted to chat via Facebook Messenger, text message, I don't do WhatsApp. But ask, and I'll do what I can to help. I've had conversations with many people over Facebook Messenger in the hospice and end of life group. No charge. This is not a business part. I can't predict the future. I've shared this in previous episodes. There may come a time where I might say, I'm going to turn this into a consulting business, but for right now, this is offered freely from my heart to your heart as a gift. So let me share my own personal stories as a hospice nurse. So I mentioned as part of this act of love, you may have been changing a person. So I still remember my one Mennonite family. I was the hospice nurse for the husband. He had late stage dementia. And the wife was so kind. And in the beginning, I'm only going there once a week, but then he had a change and I'm going there more often. And on the one day, the wife shared he's not responsive. Immediately put him on daily visits. Sometimes we miss things and it eats up at me, but nobody would have caught it. I don't know, I'm not God. But he's still with us. So thankfully the CNA came, and we're working on getting him comfortable. And I go to say I'm going to be going out to the living room to count the morphine, the lorazepam, and all these comfort meds that were not used prior, just in case he might need them. And before I got a chance to leave the room, the CNA goes, it looks like he was having a bowel movement, and I need to be blunt. I'm not trying to be morbid or gross, but this is part of, if you're caregiving, you've dealt with this. But there was some feces sticking out of his anus. And so CNAs, I'm not saying what can't be done behind the scenes, but in terms of like doing stuff according to scope of practice, they're not allowed to remove that. So I put on a pair of gloves and I removed the feces, and once I got everything done there, I said, are you okay to complete everything else, or do you need my help to get him positioned in bed? This is not a title thing of like, oh, I'm an RN, I don't do that. I just had my hands. So she said no, she doesn't need any help. So I degloved and washed my hands, and then I go to work with the family and prepare them for what's coming. And just a few minutes passed, and she comes back and she said, I think he's gone. He was breathing prior. So I go in the room, and he wasn't no longer with us. He died. And I pronounced and called the coroner and made all the phone calls and was there with and for the family. But when I got back to the office, I was a mess. Did I cause it's called a vasovagal maneuver? Because as of removing the feces, again, not trying to be too graphic, you're putting your finger gloved. And I was worried, did I accidentally touch his vagus nerve and cause the blood pressure to just drop? And my boss, hi Tara, if you're watching this at the time, said, no, just rolling him or her, when you go to change somebody that's that close to passing, just rolling somebody and providing care, the body's natural reaction could be a shift in blood pressure. That's why they tell elderly patients, take your time getting out of bed. Sit up first, dangle your feet, give a couple minutes, then stand. Blood pressure shifts. It wasn't me, but that was my thought. Did I just kill that man? All I was doing was providing hands-on care. No, I didn't kill him. Let me share you another story. I remember this patient out in Glen Rock, very rural. The whole story was interesting from a point of view. One of the gifts from Jesus is, even though I'm an introvert, I platonically fall in love with every patient and family for whom I provide care. I have my professional boundaries, but I care for them, and they seem to know that. So I went to go see this patient, and I get to the house, and it's very rural, so there's no street parking, garage parking, so you're finding a spot on the grass to park, and there's all these cars, and so I go in, and this lady's in a hospital bed, and the family, I couldn't even remember now. I wasn't counting then. I literally was scared. I'm an introvert, so I get shy in crowds. And I want to be cautious for what I share, mainly because I still to this day have trouble taking compliments and kind words. I shared in a previous episode that I was severely abused growing up. And even though I've forgiven and I know God's forgiven me, I still struggle with when I get compliments. But this family gave me a lot of praise and said, Peter's here, and as if I'm not God. I don't think of myself as anybody special. But they did ask me, they said she's due for her morphine dose. Now, she was still talking minimally, and I asked her, is it okay if I give you your medication? She nodded yes. And I gave her dose. And a holiday was coming up. So after giving her a dose, and I felt very awkward in front of all that family again. I'm shy in front of crowds. I asked if I could excuse myself. I literally walked over to the kitchen that was around the corner because I noticed when I gave the morphine, we needed to get refills done. A holiday's coming up. And if you're a hospice nurse watching this, it is very, very critical to pay attention to expiration dates and refills around holidays. It's better to have more, even if they're close to passing, than for the family to call the triage and say we're out of meds. That's a horror story by itself. You don't want to put anyone through that. So I sit down and get on the phone with the medical director at the time. I believe he still might be medical director of that agency. Hi, Dr. Eric, if you're watching this. And we went over the utilization and what was needed. And as I'm giving the orders, a family member came in. This is literally 5 to 7 minutes after I gave the morphine and said she passed. They think she died. And so I hang up with Dr. Barr and I go over, and yes, she died. And I pronounced and made all the phone calls. But when I left that home, the initial thought was, I gave her the dose. I gave her the dose that killed her. And I've been doing this for several years, and yet I still had this question that if you've encountered this, you know what I'm talking about. And I had to remind myself of the pharmacokinetics, the science that matters, is this is not given IV. We're talking about hospice. The majority of the time, these medications are oral. Now, you may watch Hospice Nurse Julie. She's a wonderful nurse. I don't know her personally, but she has a YouTube channel. You may see her videos, and she had a video out about Macy catheters, where medications can be given rectally, but most of the time, these are given orally. I like going back, it's part of my missing teeth, I like going back by the gum line, by the molars, and going slow, whether there's teeth or not. And that has to be absorbed. It's not IV, so it's not going directly into the arm and into the bloodstream. So it takes a minimum of 15 minutes, or I should say the fastest that it could work buccally or sublingually, the fastest, I should say, is 15 minutes. We usually say to our patients, we'll know in a half hour if we're going somewhere good with this or we need to do something different. So I had to remind myself that in 5 to 7 minutes, it didn't get there. It didn't get there. Now in fact, I'm going to end my stories because it's not about me. If you're watching this, you might be asking the question, did you? The answer is no. This is live, not in the sense of it's a live stream, so I'm not seeing commentary or chat. Somebody might be saying, well, the instructions said give 0.5 ml, and I'm just tired of all the suffering, and I gave one. I gave the whole syringe. Two things. If that's what you did, yes, that's what you did. But you still didn't kill her or him. Well, how do you know this? Let's go over the dosing. Let's go over the dosing. So, on that 1 ml syringe, 0.25 ml, that's volume. When you talk ml, you're talking volume. We not have to look at dosing. 0.25 ml is 5 milligrams. 0.5 ml, half the syringe, 10 milligrams. 0.75 ml is 15 milligrams. And the whole syringe is 20 milligrams. So I got instructions to give 1 ml every hour. Is that going to kill my loved one? And the answer is no. Because of two things. First, for those who want the cold hard facts, i.e. the science, the maximum daily dose for toxicity does not mean death. Toxicity means that you're starting the poisoning process. You've not killed them till they've been poisoned for a period of time. The maximum toxic dose for liquid morphine, the daily dose, is 1,600 milligrams. 1,600 milligrams. 1,600 milligrams. That's toxic. I had a pancreatic cancer patient who was receiving 2 syringes, so 2 ml. We worked with the pharmacy to make it more concentrated so the wife wasn't losing her mind having 2 syringes an hour. So 40 milligrams an hour. 40. Now take 40 and, oh my word, look at my calculator. Take 40 times 24, 960, sorry, pressed it twice, 960 milligrams compared to 1,600. What about if they took the whole bottle? Well, if you were to look at the packaging for liquid morphine, there's 30 ml in a bottle, 30 ml. So 30, the concentration is 20 milligrams per ml. So 30 times 20, they took 600 milligrams of morphine in that bottle. Are they going to get very sick from 600 milligrams at one time? Absolutely. And if you encounter this and they were trying to commit suicide, I'm not going to... This is where it gets very gray. The law is not gray. Law, call 911. Personally, I call 911 because they're going to get very sick and they're not going to die from it. That's why I would call 911. Vomiting is going to be common. Charcoal. What if they took 2 bottles? Well, times it by 2. You're now up to 1,200 milligrams. 3 bottles are up to 18. Now they're at the toxic level, but I don't know if that's going to kill them. And this is not an episode of how to kill yourself. But that dose of morphine, that dose of lorazepam. Now, before I go to lorazepam, I mentioned there were 2 things with morphine. There are many doctors out there and nurses like myself and nurses like Ed, if you're watching this. Hi, Ed. Tanya, you're probably in the same group. Hi, Tanya. That there is no toxic level if that's what it takes to keep them comfortable. If that's what it takes to keep them comfortable, there's no toxic level. Because toxic, we're talking textbook, and you and I are not a book. We're not a piece of paper. We're flesh and we're blood and we bleed. So those are the 2 things. Lorazepam, for those of you who want to know, quote, textbook answers. Pharmacology, toxic dose, again, not killing, 10 milligrams for the day. So some of you who may have loved ones on hospice and you're told give a milligram of lorazepam every 4 hours. Well, every 4 hours over 24 hours a day, divide by 4. Every 4 hours, you're giving it 6 times. 6 times 1, 6. You still got 40% left. And I don't have memorized for haloperidol for the maximum daily dose. It's very high compared to lorazepam. So if you have a loved one on hospice, my heart goes out to you. I've had my mother-in-law was on hospice, and as a hospice nurse, I've cared for more than I can count. This is about their comfort, their journey. If you go to touch them and they're screaming and they cannot tolerate being touched, moved, they are so close to dying. And what they're being given probably is not enough. And the goal is not enough to kill them. The goal is not enough so that they're not crying, screaming, and pulling away. They should be so comfortable towards the very end that they're sleeping, that you can go like this to them. And we're talking the last hours, the last day, where you can go like this to them, mom, dad, uncle, nephew, whatever. And you have trouble waking them up. And as a side note, if there were no medications involved, that's what happens as well for certain disease processes. I mentioned earlier in this video, I've had patients that needed nothing. You get to a part of the natural dying process, you go into a coma-like state where you're not waking up. Most people do die in their sleep. And the goal of medications when they're needed is for comfort. If you have questions on medications, there's this book, Hospice Medication Handbook. There's other books out there. If you're not sure what to get, just ask. If you just want to talk without even buying a book, ask. This is about you. Hopefully I answered your question. No, you didn't just kill your loved one on hospice. And no, hospice didn't kill them either. And feel free if you want to debate that with me, not that I want to get into a fight. If you like what you're seeing, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for your time, and God bless.